Ooh.
And astonishing goal. That's the way to do it. Herrera, Ibrahimovic! With 3.5 minutes to play. Now Di Maria wants it back, gets it back. Fantastic!
That's the luck of the bounce off Gaston Ramirez. Top try! What a day this is turning out to be for Manchester United!
Mason Greenwood hits the spot.
In he goes towards Muriel. What a save, David De Gea. Brilliant save.
Thought about shooting, thought better on it. Martial comes in brilliantly. And James, dream debut. Daniel James.
Hello and welcome back to the United Devils podcast. This week we'll be looking at United's win against Chelsea after the winter break, as well as the draw away to Club Brugge, or looking at their next matches being a home game to Watford and the second leg in the Europa League round of 32. With me today, I welcome back Jayson.
Thanks for having me on again. And finally, we timed this right that, at least we're going to have some positive things to talk about, I think. I feel like the last few times it's just been after devastating losses and terrible performances. And finally, we have a win to talk about for once.
Yes, exactly. It's been too long, it seems. But let's get straight into it. United went to Stamford Bridge knowing that they had never had a double over Chelsea in the Premier League era. They knew they would be without Paul Pogba, without Scott McTominay, and without Marcus Rashford, but were delighted to welcome back Eric Bailly and Nemanja Matic from injury and suspension, respectively. And although they were peppered with chances by Chelsea early on in the game, Chelsea spurned all their potential opportunities. And late in the second half, Wan-Bissaka dug out a magnificent cross and Martial headed in the opener. In the second half, United gained confidence from the goal and pretty much controlled Chelsea quite well, and then got the second goal quite quickly into the second half. A fantastic header from Harry Maguire, from a superb cross delivered by Bruno Fernandes from a corner, something we've been missing for the last, say, 2 or 3 years. And United were 2-0 up at the Bridge, and so decided to just defend well, defend compactly with their back five, and allow the Chelsea pressure and to counter with the pace they had. Could have made it 3 with a one-on-one chance with debut striker Odion Ighalo, but a 2-0 victory at the Bridge. How massive a result was that game?
Well, that's the thing about the Premier League, and that's the thing about especially, where it's so tight between second, well, really third, between like third and eighth. It is just so tight in the Premier League. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, where like a 1 or 2 game stretch, you could vault up to fourth or third, or you can go all the way down to like 11th or 12th, based on how huge every match is. And that was a true 6-pointer. No doubt it's a 6-pointer where you go into it. And again, this may be a function of my expectations of the club now, where if you told me, hey, you can not play the game and take a draw, I probably would have. Because it's a tough place to play. Like you mentioned, I don't think we've had the league double over Chelsea since like 87, 86, something like that. Like you said, prior to the Premier League. And then of course, like early on, it looks like Chelsea is going to get the opener. And then, once you go a goal down on the road, it's against almost anybody, especially a side like Chelsea with a lot of talent on it. It's really hard to, even get a draw out of a game like that. But they, like you said, they withstood the chances. I forget who had the strike. I think it might have been Rudiger, who barely missed wide. Looked like De Gea had it covered anyway if it was on frame. But then they do exactly what you need to do to win on the road. You have to get that opening goal. And they did through a you'd have to say a pretty brilliant finish. And header goals, which is weird too with this club. I mean, goals in general are weird for this club, but especially header goals, right? Like, when was the last time? I can't even. I mean, they had gone 3 games goalless too going into it, so they had to, have no confidence really going into the match. And what you said was such a great point, because it really did resonate that the goal seemed to give them confidence, which generally does. Like, goals tend to give you confidence, but I think it was doubly important because they hadn't scored in such a long time.
Yeah, it's a 32-year run of not beating Chelsea twice in a season.
Right.
And the first time Manchester United have completed a league double over Chelsea without conceding a goal since the 1964-65 season. So it just shows how big a rival Chelsea have been to Manchester United over the last couple decades, even longer, you could say. But the thing is about the game, you mentioned the chances that Chelsea missed. I think a couple by Rudiger, one or two by Michy Batshuayi. Pedro had an effort blocked by Eric Bailly fantastically.
Yes, an unbelievable block that was.
Sensational, yeah. Though Chelsea did put the ball in the back of the net twice.
I definitely glossed over that. Definitely
and Lampard did complain about 3 VAR calls, and we'll go through them, chronologically. So the Harry Maguire potential red card that he compared to the Son red card, Kurt Zuma's goal disallowed for a shove, and Giroud's offside goal. Now, for me personally, I think the final one is the most undeniable one of the 3, because offside's offside. That's just how it is. The second one is a shove. I think that should be undeniable. I mean, there's a difference between 1-arm and 2-arm shove, and that is a foul. But the first one seems to be seriously contentious and very inconsistent. What was your take on it?
I thought, to borrow a phrase that I see a lot from your side of the pond, I think he was a lucky boy there, because it looked pretty clear that he kicked his leg out. I always look at it like this. If I was on the other side of it, how would I feel? Like, if that was, I don't know, Rudiger kicking Maguire, I would be definitely screaming for a red card. And I don't even think he saw a yellow. He saw nothing. Yeah. I mean, I think the argument against the red card there, just to play devil's advocate on the United Devils podcast, he was fouled. So I think he got a little leeway because he was kind of shoved violently out of bounds, and then it was kind of like, okay, so they both did something that could have been carded, so let's just card nobody. Like, I think that would be the defense, but realistically, I mean, he has a studs up kick into the leg of the Chelsea player. I mean, that he's very lucky not to see red. And then if he does get the red, the entire match changes. There's no way they win if they're playing with 10. So yeah, that was if you're gonna rank them, I think that's number 1. The most controversial. The shove in the back, while I think that was the right call, but there is contact before that, so he's kind of shoved into the shove, and then the offside is clear. I mean, he's a step offside. I think in other leagues they allow that to be a goal. I think the Italian league, as long as your shoulders are level, you're fine. But in the Premier League, if any part of your body is offside, you're offside. So there's really to me, that one wasn't controversial at all. I mean, I understand why a Chelsea fan would be frustrated with it, but I mean, it's letter of the law. He's offside.
So, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, but that definitely changed the match. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to deny that. I definitely benefit from it because I had under 2.5 in that game, so I got a little lucky myself.
You do look at it with the Son thing, and you think, well, the VAR, the people doing the VAR must know and must remember the Son red card, and what must be going through their head to think that this is inconsistent with what was previously given.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. And I think the other thing to look at as well is, I mean, this is the kind of stuff. There's almost one a game, isn't there? Like, wouldn't you say, like, across the league? I feel like, maybe not one per match, but pretty close, where, there's an argument for a red card. And I feel like in order to get red card, they want something like massively egregious. In other leagues, I see stuff that's called red. Like in MLS, for example, they pull red a lot in MLS. Like that would have almost certainly been red in MLS. But I feel like in the Premier League, they definitely get away with, they give leeway, I think. Do you agree or what do you think?
I think that the Premier League is one of those leagues where aggression is something that's almost applauded in that sense, whereas in Spain there are only maybe Atletico Madrid are like kind of the black sheep of La Liga in the sense that they are a very aggressive team, but it gets results. I mean, we saw they beat Liverpool.
Yes,
something that no one in the Premier League's managed to do, and they've done it by being like a Burnley or a Sheffield United.
Yeah, they play a different brand of football there, and I love watching Atletico Madrid. Like, if I had to pick a team to support in that league, I tend to find myself rooting for them because I like their style, and they're kind of like the anti-Real and the anti-Barca, and like you said, like they play like a Premier League squad. I'm amazed they don't get like more red cards.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a bit like that.
But and then you watch Premier League and you see moments like that where Maguire literally kicks his leg out violently at an opponent and doesn't get called. And I mean, I do think he's lucky not to see red. I'm not saying that he didn't get away with it, but that call is the straight red in the Premier League. I feel like you have to do something really, really egregious to get straight red. Like stomp on a player while they're down.
Double-footed challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, it was hugely controversial and even more so because of the fact that Maguire scored and put in an outstanding performance. But in that defence, he wasn't the only one that played exceptionally well. The two centre-backs either side of him were also significantly impressive. Luke Shaw, who'd been criticised for his defensive ability, is making that position his own. But I want to talk about, or I'd rather, if you could discuss how happy were you to see Eric Bailly back?
You forget how good Bailly is until he shows up. You miss players like Rashford because they score goals. You miss players like Pogba because he's so conspicuously on the ball all the time. But you miss players like Bailly almost because it's almost like, to borrow a concept from American football, like you don't really know who the offensive linemen are until one guy's out and all of a sudden, there's a guy in the backfield in the quarterback's face all day. Like the back line was so settled down by having Bailly back there, along with Maguire, and really most of the game being able to play a back three because of how much space they can cover. And how, smart they are. Like the challenge Bailly made on that what looked to be a clear scoring chance, and all of a sudden they don't even get a shot on target because Bailey makes a perfect slide tackle, blocking the ball over the line. And it's just, he's just that good. Like he really is, a throwback. Like, people think that when United started to become like a mid-table squad from when they were top of the league, that it was like losing Rooney and Van Persie, and that was a huge part of it. But to me, like, not so much the bigger part, but as big a part was Vidic and Ferdinand. Those two guys just being rocks at the back. And we have a shot for something similar, not quite that level, but Maguire and Bailey are those type. If we could ever get a run of games where the two of them just play back there for like 10 straight games, we'd see the results start to come back. I think. I might be overstating that, but I don't know. What did you think? I think those guys are huge keys, the two of them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always important to have as many players back as possible. And, when the likes of Lindelof, by Maguire and Tuanzebe are all available, it pushes, no disrespect, well, a little bit, it pushes Phil Jones further down the list.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
And it offers up competition, because realistically, in most games, United are going to play a back four, and so only two centre-backs are going to feature. So it means that in training, in matches, whether it's a cup game or the Premier League, each player has to perform at a 10 out of 10, or at least an 8 out of 10 to stay in the squad, because easily there's someone that's, just as good or, close enough, that's going to be paired alongside Harry Maguire, because, he is the captain. He's a stalwart in defence. He's made that team better. We missed him when he was injured, because Phil Jones came in and made a hash of it in the Carabao Cup. And so you can see the difference that Maguire makes, and he's made that position his own, the left centre back in a back four, or the kind of main centre back in a back three. And then it's really up to the others, because Lindelof, he can have a bad game. Against Watford, he had an awful game. He got bullied by Troy Deeney, and so that's when Bailly comes in. But when you when you're going to be playing against low blocks, you'd rather have Lindelof in the team, because he can actually, start attacks from defence, and he can come out with the ball a bit more than Eric Bailly can. So, and Tuanzebe is a huge prospect that can do both of those things combined, but just not as well. So you have all that in the team, and it's just who can play better. And competition always means that players play better, because it's either shape up or get shipped out. So it's up to them, really.
I think you're hitting on two hugely important things. Like, one is squad depth. Like, I said a while back on this pod, and it's nothing, I'm not earth-shattering anything here, but back in the old Sir Alex days, when we used to routinely compete for lots of silverware, we'd have to roll out basically two squads to be effective in multiple competitions. You see it all the time where teams that are really, really good have to forego certain competitions because they just don't, it's just too much, for one squad to compete for. You kind of saw it with the League Cup with Liverpool. They kind of bowed out, even though they're really far and above everybody else. And, you see it in other situations, like where Man City, although they're going to probably, be a top 3 or 4 team, but, they're clearly, very focused, especially with what we'll talk about later, them being banned from future competitions, a couple future ones. They're really going all out for Europe this year. So that's number one that you touched on, that we have all this, it seemed, from where it looked really dire a few weeks ago or even a month ago, like now with certain players coming back into the fold, like with a Bailey and a Maguire being fit, you're starting to see where, those those other choices like Lindelof and Tuanzebe, like they can be, FA Cup, or they could be, Europa or Champions League, hopefully next year. And not as important matches before like knockout stage. Whereas before, the drop off was so dire because we weren't able to feature Bailey or Viley. You always want to call him Bailey. So that's two. So that's the first point. And then the second point is, like we were saying before about the Premier League, with it being such a physical league, like you need guys like Maguire and Bailey who have size to deal with. Like often with, I think Lindelof's really good. And I think Tuanzebe's really good, but I think sometimes, against certain matchups, big, strong, attacking players, they struggle because they're just, they get pushed around. You know what I mean? Especially Lindelof. So that's just my thought on it. I think with the physical league, Maguire and Bailey are a great fit, and then being able to, rest them at times with quality depth is important.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Bailey was, of course, rested in the Club Brugge game, and we'll go on to that game in a bit. But before that, there was something that happened before the match that I think sort of took away something from the end result, because before the game, Mino Raiola continued his, quote unquote feud with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, saying that after the manager's comments saying Paul Pogba is a Man United player, he will continue to be a Man United player until he's not. And, he doesn't have to argue with Mino Raiola over his comments, but he might have a quiet word with the Frenchman about what his agent's been saying. And Raiola says that Paul Pogba is not Solskjaer's player. He is his own player, and he chooses what he does. And Raiola says that, he can say what he likes because freedom of speech. And it just seems all a little bit unnecessary. And the fact that he did it before a massive game for Manchester United takes away, it just shows a lot of disrespect on his half. It's something that we've seen for years now, something that has happened under Ferguson, something that's happened under Jose Mourinho, when the reports that he offered, that City were offered Pogba and Mkhitaryan in the summer of 2017. It's what has to be done about this man, because it seems that Pogba's not saying anything, and it keeps getting linked back to Paul Pogba himself, whereas he's not said a word either way. So what's your take on this conflict?
Well, Raiola really annoys me. I think, he's a power agent and he has high power clients, especially Pogba's one of them. I think he's more concerned with his wallet than anything else. It's an agent, so most agents, that makes sense. They're trying to make their fee, right? And how do agents get paid? Endorsements, which Pogba is always advertising something, and transfer fees. So, not that long ago, Pogba was keen to come here, because it was a big transfer. Now it's like, all right, I'm Raiola, I can cash in again. I can have him transfer again, And of course, he's still worth a lot of money on the open market. And so I feel like it's one of those situations where Pogba's bearing the brunt of a lot of criticism. Some of it's warranted, some of it's not. But where it's like you kind of alluded to, actually not only alluded to, you said it, like it's not really Pogba causing the controversy. It's Raiola speaking and being attributed to to Pogba. So I get the sense that if you sat Pogba down and said, look here, we're going to talk here as between the three of us, Arjun, Jayson, and Pogba, and this doesn't get back to Raiola, I think he likes it here. I think he likes being a big star at United, I think he was happy. I think he's just getting terrible advice from an agent who wants money.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I've always felt that way. So I've always hoped that Pogba would just wise up and fire this guy, but he's just not going to do it.
Like what Lukaku did.
Wait, say again?
Well, Lukaku, his agent was Mino Raiola, and then he fired him, I think, halfway through the 2017-18 season, so his first season there, because Raiola was saying, let's have you moved on, and so he fired him.
Right. He was trying to do the same thing with Lukaku. Because at any time Lukaku transfers, or anytime any player transfers, an agent gets a piece of it. So if I'm an agent and you're a star, I don't care if you transfer 5 times, 5 different clubs, because every time you transfer, I make money. So, but is it right for you? No, it's not. It's not good for a player to be bouncing all over the world. Players should, stay with a club, at least a few years. I know Pogba's been here a few years, but there's no reason for him to transfer out of United and then back to United and then out of United again. It's like, you either want to be here or you don't. I mean, clearly he wanted to be here. He came back. So I don't know. I just think it's like we said, it's him getting bad advice and him just, taking it, seems like to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, the big puzzle about it is that if Pogba was so desperate to leave, as Mino Raiola keeps saying, where's the transfer request?
Right. That's another great point.
I mean, Zaha and Eriksen both put in transfer requests. Zaha's got rejected, but Eriksen then was shipped off pretty much straight away. If Pogba had put in a transfer request, I'm sure he would have gone for the right price, but there wasn't one. And the only offer that came in was a derogatory one from Real Madrid, which I think was 25 million plus James Rodriguez, which I think is probably about 60 million total, which is ridiculous. But that was all that's happened in the last 12 months or however long it's been since Pogba said, I want a new challenge, which is ambiguous in itself. But it just seems that constantly his agent keeps stirring rumours up and causing the papers to consistently say Pogba's going to leave to Juventus, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern, whoever it is next. And then, Pogba's he's injured, and then people say he's faking his injury because he wants to move, or he's actually not going to be. He's actually Solskjaer's saying that he's been delayed for an extra 3 or 4 weeks because he wants to move and not because the injury was worse than they expected. And he's now returned to Carrington today, but who knows what the future holds, because no one has a clear picture, because Solskjaer doesn't say anything. Raiola keeps churning up transfer rumours and then saying something completely different the next week, and Pogba doesn't say anything himself. So we're all left in the dark, left to guess what we think is going on, and then that causes more rumours. So there is a big problem of communication.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's definitely like a breakdown here. Like, he either wants to leave or he doesn't. And like you said, no transfer request, at least none that we know of. It's not really Pogba talking, it's Raiola. Every time Pogba comes on to do anything like an Instagram video or a Twitter post, or some kind of interview, he just seems to be only talking about, playing. Like when I don't know if you saw that Instagram video he put up when he was in the hospital.
Oh yeah.
Where he just seemed, it was just so carefree and so like he was just being a kid. You know what I mean? You know, he sounded like a kid
on
sick in
medication.
bed. Say again?
The one where he was on medication.
Oh, exactly. And he just sounds like he's a kid sick in bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, just high on, you know, not, you know, bad drugs, but high on like, you know, medication for pain from being in surgery. And even how poorly was that handled? Like we have a report comes out, you know, we expect Pogba to be available. He doesn't travel with the team, and all the stories come out like, you know, Pogba's faking an injury. Pogba's being a baby. You know, here we go again with Pogba. You know, all that stuff, and then it turns out he actually has surgery. Like, so how is Raiola not in front of that? You know, listen, my player is injured. Okay. Like, speak up, like, be an agent, like, be someone who has a fiduciary responsibility to a client.
Yeah.
That he lets, you know, a week pass of mainly United supporters just bashing Pogba for being a baby, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Because they thought he chose not to travel with the team. Because there was a report that he was supposed to play and then he didn't. So, I don't know. And a lot of the problem, too, is Solskjaer. I think he just doesn't really ever give any real information. So we're left to just conjecture. Like, he'll say someone is touch and go, which is like his favorite phrase, which, you know, would seem to think, okay, maybe he'll be back in a week. But for, you know, Solskjaer, touch and go means 2 months, you know? So, I mean, again, we'll talk about this more in depth, but, you know, I figured McTominay was out for the year. It sounds like he's going to be back. I figured Pogba was out a week or two. It turns out he has surgery, and he might never play for us again. It's just like you just have no idea the severity of anything. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a roundabout way of saying this. The bottom line, I just think Pogba there's too many people in his ear, and Raiola's voice is the loudest. And unfortunately, we don't know what Pogba really wants. But it seems like, I feel like he'd want to stay, just based on how I read the situation. But I don't know. It's a weird situation. I've never seen anything like this.
No, I think it will just. We'll just have to see. I think it will depend on where United are at the end of the season. I think it will depend on who's there at the end of the season, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, gut feeling for you. Like, do you think he'll ever play for United again, or do you think?
Oh yeah. He's got a Euro to play for, so I think he will come back and he will try and finish strong. Apparently, he should be back for the Manchester derby. That's the report I heard. So the 8th of March, I think it is.
Okay, so you think he's going to play again?
I'm under that. Yeah. Do you?
I don't know anymore. Like, I feel like you said, he needs to get his place in the squad for the Euro. I mean, we saw Martial. I mean, it's a different level of play, but we saw Martial basically play his way out of contention for the World Cup.
Yeah.
So could the same thing happen to Pogba? It's hard to. I mean, I've heard national team managers say this. It's hard to select the guy who's not played. You just don't. You can't waste a roster spot on someone who's out of form. You just can't do it.
100%. Yeah.
So it's too important. But I mean, so yeah, like you said, I mean, I would say, I just don't know. I have this weird feeling he won't play, but I don't know. I hope you're right, because I think he's a great player.
Yeah.
But you know, it's crazy. The situation is just so crazy.
It will just take it as it comes. But we'll move on. We've talked about Pogba for a while. We'll talk about the Europa League. Of course, Manchester United went to Belgium yesterday, and with six changes to the squad, 5 to the outfield players. They go in and was a weird game.
Very strange game.
Yeah. 2 defensive errors led to 2 goals. A big kick over the top from Simon Mignolet and Club Brugge lob Sergio Romero's caught completely out of position and they score. And then from a Club Brugge throw-in, Martial pounces on the ball and finishes past the former Liverpool goalkeeper. And the game they cancelled each other out in the sense. But Man United had bigger chances. I think Brandon Williams blazed one over from a decent cross from Andreas Pereira. And Ighalo didn't really get in the game when he came on. Fernandes created the best chance of the game, but Mata was offside.
Even though he was on for like 4 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Mignolet made a great save to deny Martial. Romero had a couple good stops as well. But overall, it's a draw away from home. Can you take 3 points from that game as positives? Are there 3 positives from that game?
I mean, ultimately, you get an away goal, so that's. Mm-hmm. I can never keep track of these things. Away goals still are important in Europa, right?
Yes.
They change the rules all the time in these competitions, but I think we're still crediting like them as like a goal and a half, basically. Mm. So you get an away goal. A 1-1 draw, especially in a first leg, is it's a result. I mean, of course, you want to go in there and win 5-0, of course, but you can't be upset over a 1-0 or a 1-1. Sorry, a 0-0 would have been. That game should have been 0-0, realistically. But yeah, so the away goal is good. The draw is whatever. It really sets you up for you should easily go through now. But I guess the other positive would be that they really did roll out like a B-ish squad and got the result that works. And the other big thing out of that game is Martial just looks like he's getting hot. He's now scored in a few straight games. I think it's at least 2. Yeah, it's got to be 2 because they didn't score for like a month. So it's 2 in a row for him. So that's good too. He's looked like a different player the last few times out, at least in terms of taking his chances. How about you? Did you find it more positive, more negative?
I think for one, it shows how important Bruno Fernandes and Fred have been in the team. Because Lingard and Pereira.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Fred. He's been pretty good, to be honest.
Oh yeah, no, he's been outstanding since he came in to the team. He's been integral while Pogba's been out. He had a bit of a sticky start this season, but then he just grew into it and has shone really. But it just shows that Pereira's not a centre midfielder. He can't play as a number 10. And he can't play on the wing, so
that's a huge problem for him because that's about the only options that he has.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see him starting again. I hope, especially in the heart of midfield, because I think there's a point, a 5-minute period where he. He didn't win the ball back. He had to go back to where a right back should be playing and then try to play a straight ball to Dalot and played it straight off the pitch and then gave the ball away because he was trying to do some skill move and then Club Brugge got a shot on. So he could have gifted them a second goal. So he can't control possession. He can't, find a pass. He's not got the vision that Fernandes does or even Mata. So it just shows how little he's actually developed. And we were singing his praises when he came in earlier in the season when, especially when Lingard was out of form and Pogba was injured, they needed that kind of player, a bit more creative player. And he did sort of begin well, but without the kind of final product, without the actual goal or assist. But he's now just dropped so far, and he's had issues as well with mental health, of course, which is, you wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Yeah, it's definitely nothing to gloss over for sure.
No, of course not. But at the same time, he's just it's not his fault, but he's just not the quality that United need.
No, I mean there's no problem with him being in the squad, like a squad player. You know what I mean? Like way down the pecking order, couple of injuries, and he comes in to play, or just be on the bench, or to play an FA Cup game against Derby County or something.
Yeah.
There's no problem with that. But like we've been saying for a while now, like sometimes you just are what you are. Like the reason United has pretty much floundered between 5th and 12th the entire season is, I don't mean to pin it all on one guy, but like the top 6 or 7 squads are not consistently starting a player like that. We are, unfortunately, because of the situation that we're in. You know what I mean? He's never featuring for Tottenham. He's never even featuring for Arsenal. And they've been almost worse than us, realistically. But for us, he had a run of games. He's another one of those players. And again, I like him. I want him to do well. And he's had moments where you've been like, wowed by his ability. But unfortunately in football, and this is just kind of the way it goes with these kind of players, like everyone in the Premier League has like the skill set that Pereira does. They all have that. Those quick touches, the ability to, go around people, the ability to cross the ball, to curl the ball, to shoot from distance. Like they all have that. Like the good players are able to do it consistently and when it's needed. Like I'm sure in the training ground, Pereira's great. I'm sure. But when the lights are on, he's just not, just can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely strikes you as the kind of player that gets a talent scout in trouble. Like you see him and you're like, wow, this guy's got a lot of ability. And then he plays and it's like, where did it all go?
Yeah. We've got a few of those there.
Yeah. And like you just said, we've got a few of those. It's a problem. It's kind of why we're where we're at,
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of about loyalty and kind of heart over head kind of moment with Lingard and Pereira coming through the academy and rising through the ranks, that kind of thing. I mean, they've been on loan a few times, then come back into the squad and fought for their place, but they're just not producing the results. And I understand, they played Monday and Thursday. It's 72 hours difference, and you have to keep the squad fresh.
Right. You need to rotate people, especially for a match like that. Like, because, I mean, it's a dangerous game to play. But the reality is we could have gone into the Club Brugge game. It's first leg of a tie. The second leg is at Old Trafford. That's all you needed was a draw. You didn't need, it wasn't like a must win. Like I fully expect when the return fixture, like that we win something like 3-0. You know what I mean? Like I just expect that. So even if they were down 2-0, I wouldn't think they were out of the tie.
Yeah.
But so you're able to kind of put out players like that. But the reality is when you do play a squad like that, you get the kind of game that we got. Like kind of a, I think you kind of alluded to it at the beginning of this conversation, just like an performance. It wasn't positive, wasn't particularly negative. It was like, like if you watched that game and you were a casual observer and you didn't know like who the two teams were, you would have just been like, all right, well, okay, that's probably two evenly matched teams played a weird game. you know, it's kind of what it was.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know.
It's just how it is, but at the same time, away goals a bonus, and the second leg is to come, and I'm sure Fernandes will be starting that game, and hopefully
Right, of course.
creating
That's what I mean. Like, that's why you can't take the performance that seriously. It's like,
Of course, yeah.
It's upsetting. Like, on some levels, it's like, come on, we can't even beat Club Brugge. Like, but it's definitely not one of those things where I see supporters get into this all the time, where they're like, oh, I mean, they play like that against Club Brugge. What's going to happen when they play, a real team? I mean, no disrespect to Club Brugge, but like a Premier League team. And it's like, it's just apples and oranges. It's not a relevant comparison. It's because it's like you said, it was a totally different squad. I mean, yeah, Martial, but everybody else was just kind of like, like 6 changes. That's a lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
we'll just have to. I mean, 7 days from now, we'll probably be saying, hopefully, we'll be saying that United came through in the end, and that's all you really need to say at this point.
Yeah, and that's the last thing I'll kind of say on that match. It's still a Europa tie in a place you never play. I mean, I'm not trying to excuse make here, but those matches are always weird.
Mm-hmm.
They're just always strange. Like, if you go back and look at, the year that they won Europa a few years back, there were plenty of matches like this along the ride.
Exactly,
Right.
and against lesser teams, you have to say, because
definitely.
But so I mean, we'll see. We'll just have to see how it goes, and hopefully, at home we can continue our good run of being 100% win record at home in Europe this season.
Yeah,
but
we've done well. I mean, we've done pretty well in Europe, and I fully expect them to make a run. I expect them to get at least to a quarterfinal, at least. And it's definitely a winnable competition, I think. I really do.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, winning the Europa League means we get Champions League football, regardless of league positioning. But that might not be the only easier way of winning the of getting Champions League football. As of course we missed last week by a day. Manchester City have been found guilty of breaching financial fair play regulations and have been, as of now, currently been given a 2-year ban from Champions League football, meaning that while they can win the Champions League this year, they are not allowed to compete for the next 2 seasons, meaning that as they are likely to finish in the top 4, 5th place are set to be given Champions League football, and thus meaning that 6th and 7th will be given Europa League, and 8th being given a playoff in the Europa League. And with, I'd say, probably the top 11 or 12 teams all still in contention for Europe, being, I believe, a gap of 7 points between 4th and 11th. How massive is that for teams like Chelsea, Tottenham, Sheffield United, Manchester United, Wolverhampton Wanderers, even Burnley and Arsenal in 10th and 11th?
Oh, it's huge. It is absolutely massive. I mean, do you remember a while back, NBC? I don't know if you would have seen it, because we get our coverage of the Premier League through NBC Sports. I think you guys have Sky Sports.
NBC shows the 3:00 kickoffs, which no English channel shows. So I do see a bit of NBC.
Okay, so a few years back, they were running a promotion where it was like an American football coach in London, with Jason Sudeikis was doing.
Oh yeah, at Tottenham.
Yes, of Tottenham, correct. And when he just said, my job just got a whole lot easier when they said no playoffs. Oh, no playoffs? My job just got a whole lot easier, you know? So that's kind of what it reminded me here. Like, you know, top 5 now gets you in, most likely. Unless City completely fall out of the picture, which is, you know, borderline impossible. Unless they lost like 10 in a row or something. So it opens everything up. Because now, now 5th place likely gets you into your to Champions League, which is crazy to me.
It is, isn't it?
So, yeah, that's a big difference. I mean,
it means that, with all respect, it means that whatever happened in the Tottenham-Chelsea game could sort of change the whole perspective, and then Tottenham have to host Manchester United as well. So those are 2 big games for them,
right?
And
yeah, they were big anyway. I mean, the top 4 was within hailing distance because, you know, the regular. I mean, the whole league has been. I don't want to say down, but it's been, you know, top heavy. We've basically become the leagues I used to make fun of, you know, back in the day, where it's like, okay, yeah, German league sucks and Spain league sucks because it's two teams and everybody else, and you know, that's kind of where the Premier League is at now. But you know, with that being the case, spots 3, 4, and 5 were always up for grabs, especially 4 and 5. And with 5 being a spot you hate finishing generally because it's like you're just off the top 4 and you have to play Europa, which, you know, is a positive and a negative. I mean, squads like Burnley and Norwich would love to play Europa. But, you know, for us, it's like not what you want realistically. But now 5th place gets you Champions League in a league where, you know, United really should finish at least 5th. And I don't care if it's an asterisk. I don't care if it's, you got Champions League, but you really didn't deserve it because you finished 5th. I don't care. Ultimately, you're in Champions League. You're in Champions League. Doesn't matter how you got there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, it just became a whole lot easier, as Ted Lasso would say. So it's huge. It's huge news.
Yeah, for sure. We'll just have to. Hopefully, United can continue their good run against big teams, and hopefully Bruno Fernandes can make a bigger impact against low blocks. And so hopefully we've got that sorted till the end of the season, and then we'll just take it as we come. It doesn't.
Yeah, and I think you touched on that, and I wanted to make sure we got to this. I mean, I'm sure we're going to end pretty quickly, but definitely wanted to make sure we touch on this before we sign off. Bruno Fernandes, like, I think he has completely changed my perception of the club. Like, we went from having no midfield to a good midfield. Like, not the entire midfield, but when you have one player who's really good, it masks a lot of problems in the midfield. And that's what Fernandes is able to do. So all of a sudden, matches where, you know, I thought we have no chance, and Chelsea was one of them. But the way Fernandes played in that game, and even the impact he had for like the 5 seconds he played against Bruges, like, it changes everything, don't you think?
It's night and day between what was already on there.
Of course. Night and day. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just, he just adds so much. And the fact that you say only, it took ages, but he only cost 46 million as a base fee. And so
it's incredible. And he's young too. It's not like he's 30.
No, he's 25 and he was a captain. Exactly. It's remarkable, but there is obviously the one question that we did talk about a while ago, was that run in 2020 when you can say started with Arsenal. He wouldn't have been able to play for that game, but then you look at the Wolves game, both Wolves games, in fact, the Liverpool match, the Burnley game, the Man City semi-final, he would have made. Do you think he would have made that much of a difference in that team, or do you think how you can be critical of Ed Woodward for not getting the deal done in the first place in the summer, but you have to still be critical that he didn't get it done almost immediately in January?
You know what's funny? When you had made that comment at that time, because you said that, I remember the exact thing you said, like, would he have made an impact in those games? And I thought you were going to say something like, maybe, maybe not. But you said you'd have to say he would. And I kind of thought to myself, I mean, maybe, but I don't know if it was guaranteed. But now that you watch him, I'd agree. Like, I think you might have even been understating how much difference he would have made in those games.
Yeah.
Because they were beaten, but in both those games, they were beaten through the midfield. That's where they were beat, you know? And he settles it down almost like what McTominay was doing when he was healthy. And hopefully he'll be back this weekend. And what Pogba can do, but it's a different level. Like, it's Pogba level from Fernandes, at least in the short run. I don't know. I mean, it remains to be seen if he does this consistently, you know?
Right.
But you just could tell. I mean, some guys you just watch and you could tell right off the bat, like, okay, this is a different sort of player. This is a guy who knows how to boss a midfield and is capable of anything at any time. He can strike it from distance. He can, you know, cross. I mean, that we haven't had a corner kick goal like that I can't even remember the last time
in the Premier League. I reckon it's not been for ages. I can't even think of it.
I said, I can't even think of one.
Not one, no.
I mean, not to overstate this, we had Ashley Young taking corners as of a month and a half ago. Literally 6 weeks ago, we had Ashley Young taking corners. And I love Ashley Young. I love the guy. I think he's a warrior. I think he gave everything he had to this club, and he could have left a million times, but, you know, finally said enough's enough, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
But this guy was, you know, he was a striker, then he was a winger, then he was not even in the squad, then they asked him to play center back, left back, played everywhere. But, you know, he was our first choice corner kick taker. And that's not good.
Yeah. No, not at all.
Not at all.
It shows how far they've come with him.
Oh, 100%. And that's why it's completely changed my outlook. I mean, as of a month ago, before Bruno, I thought this squad was, you know, might finish literally 8th or 9th. Like, I really thought that was possible. Now, I'd be shocked if they don't make top 5. It would shock me. It really would. Because I think they're that much better. I know it sounds crazy to say, but I think they're that much better. Especially if McTominay comes back and if what you said comes true, if Pogba's able to play. Can you imagine the two of them in the middle?
It would be amazing, wouldn't it? It would look like a actually Champions League winning midfield in that sense.
Right.
Pogba, Fred, and Bruno Fernandes.
Like, how would you line it up? I would go like the number one squad. Like, what would you play? Would you play like a 3-5, like a 3-4-3? What would you play?
3-4-3. I don't know.
3-5-2. How would you line it up?
It's difficult to say. I probably, what I do quite like is the idea of a midfield diamond, where you play. I'd say, for the moment, the current team that's available, De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof or Bailly, I'm not sure yet, Maguire and Brandon Williams. then McTominay and Fred as the two sort of defensive midfielders. Pogba as a kind of roaming midfield, box-to-box midfielder, and then Bruno Fernandes sort of just ahead of him. That can also play as a sort of almost a false nine in that sense, where he'll drop deep and play through balls to the two front players that drift wide as Martial and Rashford. That would be sort of my formation, like what we had when Solskjaer first came in, where Lingard was that number,
right?
That number 10.
Like I'm talking about like 2020, 2021.
Oh,
I mean, because Rashford might be out for the year. I mean,
that's true, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like that makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, that kind of formation, just maybe with maybe not even. I mean, you could have McTominay and Fred battling it out for that midfield place, but it depends on if Pogba stays. It depends on who we can get in, if Sancho is actually willing to come in, and it 100% depends on if Champions League football is going to happen or not. The players who we can get in, and
I mean, it all depends. I mean, that's why like the Pogba situation is such a. I mean, I think that the whole reason they acquired Fernandes is because they expect Pogba to be gone. But I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. Like because like you like just thinking about like it's crazy because at the start of the season, and that's what I mean. Where my entire outlook on the squad has changed going into the season. Even I remember watching preseason and just being like, I remember people were all up in arms over I think a 1-1 draw against I don't even remember. It was or they won late against either an MLS club or I can't even remember, but it was a preseason friendly and it was just a terrible performance. And
it was the Norwegian side.
Yes. And what happened? They scored a goal late or something. It was like a penalty kick or something
Christensen,
like that.
Yeah, Christensen.
Yeah, and I forget. They won like 1-0, and it was just like people were so angry. And I remember saying at the time, like, I don't know why anyone's really angry. This is not a good squad. Like, there's no reason to be upset. This squad just isn't good.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it doesn't matter if they won 8-0 today. But all of a sudden, the idea of being able to roll out that team, you know, with how McTominay's emerged and how, you know, Pogba, how good Pogba is when he ever plays, and Fernandes, the two of them together, all of a sudden you start looking like a contending type team. Yeah. I mean, that's what these other teams have. That's what Liverpool has. That's what City has. The reason we're not as good as those squads is because their midfield is tremendous. They have just players who just control the game through the midfield. And United just don't have that or didn't have that.
Yeah, for sure.
Now they do. If they ever all play together. It's a huge if, but it's so different. Like Bruno is that good. Yeah. No, so is Pogba.
Truly is, yeah. Well, hopefully we will see more of him in the Sunday match against Watford, as United hope to get a bit of revenge for that horrendous 2-0 loss at Vicarage Road in December. Well, I mean, we can almost make the team or predict the team itself. I'm pretty sure it'll be the same one that played against Chelsea, perhaps with one tweak to the back line, making an extra winger, perhaps. But yeah, how do you see United lining up, and what result would you hope for, or even suggest will happen?
Well, like I said, I'm really positive now based on Bruno. Excuse me, Bruno being in the squad, and you know the idea of of McTominay coming back. And, you know, how Martial has looked the last couple matches. I expect virtually the same squad that lined up against Chelsea because I don't think if McTominay's back at the weekend, which I hope he is, I don't think they'll start him. Do you? I don't think they'll start him right away. Right? He'll just come on as a sub. Don't you think?
Yeah. I don't think they'd risk him with starting the game, because then that would be an hour of football at least. And I think that's sort of
right. You can't afford, like, if he's like gassed at 30 minutes, like you can't afford that sub. Like you just can't. It's too early unless it's like an injury.
Yeah.
But I expect the same squad. Like, the 3-4-3 or the 3-4-1-2, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
The formations always I always kind of laugh at formations because it's so fluid, and it's not like like against Chelsea at times it was like a 1-10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I expect the same. I expect the same group. I expect Maguire and Bailey to partner again. I expect Luke Shaw. He's been good. Wan-Bissaka kind of playing a little ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Making runs up the pitch because he finally made an impact. I don't want to say, because he's made an impact generally, but he finally made like a scoring impact last week.
Yeah.
Fred's been really good. I wouldn't take him out. Matic I don't know if he'd be able to do 2 weeks in a row. I don't know what his status is, but he actually looked pretty good. I think Williams gets to play again. I don't see why you sit him.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Bruno, obviously, and then you have to start Martial. He scored in 2 straight games. And then, I don't know, maybe you play the new striker, or maybe you play James. What do you think? I think I would just roll out the same squad.
Yeah, I think, why fix it if it isn't broken? That kind of thing. But, I mean, obviously, it could be criticised in the sense that you put in a back 3 or a back 5, and then it seems like you're overcompensating at home, where a team is going to park the bus. Realistically, it's just where you see it. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with using the same squad against Watford, because it does mean that Wan-Bissaka and Williams can get forward a bit more with a bit more license, as they have a bit more of a blanket in Shaw, Bailly and Maguire, or Lindelof and Maguire, whoever it is. Right. And then the attackers can stay further up the field and counter that quicker. So it's just how it goes.
Right, exactly. Because ultimately, if you have the ball, which you should have the lion's share of possession, I mean, they should have at least 60, 65% possession in the game. Watford is clearly going to play for the 0-0.
Yeah.
And until something happens, until a goal is scored, or until they score off a counter.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it's like I said going into the Chelsea game, like, if you ask a Watford supporter, we don't play the game, you get a 0-0. They've signed for that 100 times out of 100, So, like I kind of alluded to before, the formation almost doesn't matter, because you're going to be playing up most of the match. It's just having guys who are capable of tracking back against a counter move, which is why I like Bailly, because he's pretty fast, and Maguire obviously has to play. He's like your best defender and your captain. And he's smart. He reads the game. And then you're going to want like Matic in there to defend, because ultimately that would be McTominay if he was completely fit, which he's not. He can't possibly be completely fit because he's not played.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, I'd roll out virtually the same squad and just give people more license to just go forward more. The only thing I'd be tempted to maybe play Mata, but I just don't think. I think it's like I said. I think it's like you said. Like, it's not broken. It worked the last time out. Just play the same squad.
And then how do you see that game ending?
Oh, I really think we're going to win. I think we'll do it. We'll get a 2-1.
2-1.
I still think we always concede some stupid goal all the time. And we did it to Bruges. We really conceded 2 dumb goals against Chelsea, even though neither of them counted.
Yeah.
What do you think? I think 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Watford causing problems, but I think if Bailly starts, that physicality from Deeney gets neutralised, and I think the pace from Sarr and Deulofeu gets neutralised by wing backs, and I think the fact that Shaw will be sort of sitting and not having to go forward as often will help him a lot. Um, I'd like to think that Bruno Fernandes is going to make a big difference, and so I am going to go for 3-1.
Okay. Yeah, I can
With
see that. It's
yeah,
just a question of how they finish their chances.
exactly.
Like, that's what it always is. I mean, I know I'm not breaking any ground there, but you know, we're going to have the chances to put 5 up. I firmly believe that, but I doubt we put 5 up. 2
One
is
can
like
hope.
a huge number for us.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
you know,
And then,
Martial, you think he scores again? I think he's going to score
oh
again.
yeah, I think he does. I think he continues his run. When he has a run, it doesn't end for nothing. He's either then gets injured or then gets swapped out for Sanchez or something silly like that. But he's a when he's in form, he wants to make sure he keeps in form. He's a very hungry player like that, I think. But
Yeah. And
um,
he's the type of player that I think he's always confident. I think he always has some confidence. But I think his confidence in finishing really increases when he sees one go in. Like
yeah,
the way he scored, the goal he scored against Bruges was just, I mean, that was top class. I mean, we haven't seen a player score a goal like that with that kind of touch in the midfield. And then the second touch to get around the defender, and then the slotting it past the keeper, who's, you know, a couple of feet from him. Like, how many times have we seen that just kicked straight into the keeper, or chipped over the goal, or pushed wide, you know, or that touch in the midfield be too long, and you know he ends up where the chance is squandered. Like, that was like a Rooney goal, like an old school Wayne Rooney, like, take a chance from nothing, get around 2 people and pop it in. Like, you could I'm sure someone can do it. I'm not one of those YouTube type people, but I'm sure people can, you know, overlay a Rooney goal that look exactly like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh yeah, 100%, yeah.
So, I mean, you see something like that. That's something he wouldn't have been able to do 2 weeks. Like, it's getting that goal gives him confidence soars. He just plays like another. He looks like a superstar right now. Which, you know, hopefully continues.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think he's going to continue in the Europa League second leg? Do you think we'll get through with ease, or do you think it will be another difficult one?
Yeah, I think they did the old Mourinho thing, where you just go out on the road and get your 1-1 or your 0-0, and then come home and just take care of business in the second leg. Yeah, I'd be shocked if it takes extra time. I'd be shocked with Bruges.
Mm-hmm.
I think I see like a 1-0, like an easy, kind of comfortable. Like, we get a goal, kind of early, and then we just kind of coast.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that they are currently losing because away goals does count, so they are going to need to get a goal. It's
Right.
just how they do it. I mean, hopefully they won't get this goal in a similar circumstances to the way they got the first one. So hopefully we can sort out those issues, and I reckon counter-attack might be enforced in that game, because when you have got a game like Everton away coming up at the weekend, you don't really want to use all your energy in this match. No disrespect to Club Brugge, but the Everton away game is going to be far more difficult.
Yeah, it's no question. Yeah, I mean, like you said, that away goal is huge, and it means Bruges have to come into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they have nothing to lose. They really don't. I mean, they're not supposed to win. They're not as good. It's away. It's, this is where their run is supposed to end. But it could get interesting if they, I feel like the only way the tie can become interesting is if Bruges get a fluky goal. They're going to need something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Literally what happened. A clearing attempt, bounces off a defender and just ends up in the goal. You know what I mean? Something nutty.
Yeah.
I don't see them building up from the run of play and scoring. I can't see it.
No.
But, stranger things have happened, but I go into that match fully expecting it to just be a matter of fact, easy, we get a goal and maybe we add a second or maybe we don't, but it's just done. How about you? Is that kind of how you picture it?
Oh yeah, totally. I think that's what it is. I think the fact that we've got 2 home games in a row for what seems like an age.
Yeah, that's true. That's another good point.
It's a huge thing. Then of course we've got I believe 2 back-to-back away games against Everton and Derby, and then we've got the Manchester Derby after that. So
yep, playing them for the 100th time this season.
Yeah, it's playing them, playing Chelsea. Who else are we going to have? We'll probably have someone in the FA Cup. We'll probably have Liverpool away, just cause if they get past Chelsea. But
yeah, how many teams left in the FA Cup? It's 32 now, right?
That's a very good question. I think so.
Yeah, I can never keep track of that thing.
No, because it does something different. It does the 4th round or the 5th round or something like that. I think it's the 5th round. I think it's a round of.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right
round
now.
of 16. Round of 16.
So there's 16 left?
Yeah. So we'll see how that gets on.
Well, that's interesting. So all of a sudden okay, so we're contending there.
Yeah. I mean, Tottenham, Man City, Arsenal, United, Chelsea, and Liverpool are all still in it. Of course, Chelsea are playing Liverpool, so one of them will drop out. But the rest could still, and Leicester City are still in there as well. Newcastle and West Brom could spring surprises. Sheffield United, again, very difficult team to beat.
Yeah, they're very good.
Yeah, it's all still up in the air, really. But
we actually got a good draw. I mean, that's why I thought there were still 32 teams left, because we got Derby. So I figured there was another round before that. So you got to give credit to Derby getting that far. That's impressive.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, credit to us a little bit as well with the squad we put out. But
before we sign off, did you see? Do you have Netflix?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Did you see that The Losers? Yeah, it's a documentary. There's 8 episodes. It's all about people who have had some crazy loss in a sports moment. Because I was going to recommend it to any of our listeners. Well, the Torquay United one. I mean, all of them are good, but that one specifically for any soccer fan, that is definitely worth watching. I'm
afraid that is all we have time for this week. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Jayson for joining me.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
Tune in next week, in which we will discuss these 2 games and preview Manchester United's next games, which are both away against Everton and Derby County. If you have any questions or any topics you would like for us to cover, then please comment below on the video or on the Twitter or Facebook post. And if you enjoyed this, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Twitter for all of our content.